most of what we do in our life, the way we respond or react to things, is 100% programs that taught us to be safe while we were growing up. Psychedelics have a way of pulling you out, gaining that perspective and going, these are the programs running my life? I had no idea.
I like how we saw this in some Netflix documentary, Heal Your Mind. Imagine that your mind is like these ski slopes and the skiers are always taking the same path from the top of the hill to the bottom. But then when you have this therapy, it's like a fresh coat of snow that you can choose a different path. So there's these new wiring that's able to connect in your brain, these new synapses that can fire to create a new outcome.
Well, we're going to talk about psychedelics.
As an entrepreneur, especially for people that are so growth oriented, if you could do something that could give you 5 years of growth in a day, wouldn't you do that? Wouldn't you want that? It has been life-changing for us. And I feel like this needs to come with disclaimers to obviously do your research, speak to professionals that you trust.
We're not telling you to do it.
Yeah, and it's not for everyone. I think there's definitely some qualifications and tools that you need before you do this. But we approached it in a way where we were, of course, very hesitant with our different backgrounds. Canadian girl who's like, never tried drugs before. And when a trusted friend of ours saw me in my depression and spiraling and, suicidal ideation after my divorce and said, why don't you come here? There's this nurse here that facilitates this kind of therapy. And it's like, what? Drugs are bad.
Yeah.
No, never.
No, are you kidding me? This is crazy.
Yeah.
I was at a similar spot and reached out and he was like, look, I got on an SSRI and after 7 days he found out I was on it and he was like, that is not what's meant for you. He's like, we're not saying that there's no use for those things, but he's like, that is not what the problem is. He's like, holy smokes, man, get off that right now. You're going to dull your life. You're going to kill all your creativity. You're not really going to live.
What has been pretty devastating to me is recently the FDA has rejected the use of MDMA for people with PTSD. And it is a one-dose solution that has healed people from decades of PTSD, like veterans who are in these, third-round clinical trials had 1 to 3 sessions and they're sleeping at night. They're not waking up with panic attacks. Decades of PTSD from all the things that they've seen are just gone. But there's such implications for pharma and the government to not have 20, 30 million people on a monthly SSRI subscription. And RFK said it in a quote the other day of like, this decision is going to have deadly consequences. And
it's dumb. It's evil.
Devastating.
That it's been rejected. And it's straight up satanic that it's been. And I thought it would, like, honestly, and the reason I think it's cool we're doing this episode is because if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, get rid of that. Are you kidding me? People want to use that crap to like go help themselves. They just want to get high. They just want an excuse to get high. And I really did think that. And I downplayed it. And it wasn't until I really started doing a bunch of actual legitimate research on it and studying what it actually does in your brain. And I was like, oh, who wouldn't want this? And that's when, because we're going there. So I'm going to go there. Yeah.
We're going. Let's go.
I got too friendly with a handgun one night. I was so freaking depressed and isolated that I wanted a way out and almost took it. And that's when that mutual friend of ours, he's like, look, go do this. And that was, it changed my life in a single session.
Yeah. And it's shocking that it's really one session. And we can go into some of the things that we learned from it or things that we got from it, because gosh, those are deep conversations. But when I went, I didn't know what to expect, but I just knew that as much as I was hesitant to do it because of my beliefs that drugs are bad, and you also hear this stigma of, don't do this, which I think the stigma is created and amplified to be very loud by the people who control the other side that is more financially incentivized, instead of actual true healing that really gets to the root cause of trauma. Mm-hmm. When I went, all I knew was that I was dreading waking up every morning, and I was like, what do I have to lose? Because at this point, I'm desperate for some kind of a solution. So I got on a plane and I went to this nurse who was facilitating it. And lucky I had a friend that came with me to, she invited herself on the trip. She was like, I just want to take care of you, make sure you're good, which is amazing. And I came out of it completely changed. And I mean, I even saw you a couple days later, and
you were physically different.
Yeah.
It was on your face. I could see it immediately. And it's not like it was really still in you. You know what I mean? Like, oh. And that's when I was like, 2 weeks later, I went and did it myself. And sure enough, like, I remember the first, like, as soon as I felt that I was in it, my largest fear is that I was hurting my brain. You know, I'm going to hurt myself. This isn't going to be good for me. What have I done? I was very afraid that and that's why I did so much research ahead of time, because I love my brain. And so I was like, and I'm not going to go, oh my God, this is addiction. Oh no, all this stuff. And it's not that at all. And instead, I remember hearing, he just needs to be taught a little. And I started getting taught that I had an addiction to pain. And it's the only way I knew how to show up and you look around, a lot of our society is that way. It's like we don't show up out of purpose. We show up out of a pain body. And when there wasn't one, I was accidentally creating one. And so that showed up in my previous relationships. It showed up in my business. I built all my offers out of pain, fulfillment out of pain. You know what I mean? Like every aspect of my life. And so in that session, that's when it was like, hey, here's your purpose. I'm like, oh, okay.
You got it very clearly.
Very clearly.
You, coming from a very religious backdrop, like speak to that too of like you had your own connection with God through that kind of gave you the permission or the green light to be like, hey, actually this is, do you want to speak to that? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
No, for sure. No, that makes sense because I'm extremely Christian, and my biggest fear was that I was making God mad by doing it, just because of everything you're taught about. It's like drugs is this category that's just this blanket statement. You're like, Advil's a drug, right? Like we got to recategorize how we think about psychedelics and what they really are. And so I immediately started praying. As soon as I took it, I was like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap. Is God mad? Oh no. Like I kind of panicked a little. And I was just like, calm down. You're actually here to work on yourself. You got to learn some stuff here though. Like, and it was a very self-awareness. That's those Apple TV screensavers. Yeah. There's one of like the Golden Gate Bridge. Mm-hmm. There's one, this is my favorite analogy to teach it, is like, there's one of the Golden Gate Bridge where it's slowly like backing away and you're seeing the bridge on this new plane. And I thought to myself, I was looking at it one day and I was like, how interesting that those in the cars on the bridge are not actually having the same experience that I am, even though we're looking at the same direction. Mm. And perspective is the basis of like almost all wisdom. And psychedelics do that, where you're still looking forward, but it like pulls you out of just this little limited lens that you have and go, hey, let's zoom out for a second, because although you may not, you think you're lost, but actually let's zoom out and you can see that there's at least these road marks ahead. And that's what it's done for me, is create perspective that's been valuable for momentum. Yeah.
The circumstances or the environment can be the same, but your perspective changes.
Yeah.
And you're given this opportunity in this 1 day session. Incredible. Like honestly, 5 years of therapy in a day. And from going from PTSD and trauma and anxiety, panic attacks, depression, not wanting to wake up in the morning, to the next day after this being like, I have never, like I'm seeing in new colors and I have clarity now. And what it does chemically, so that we can also speak to the, chemical side of this, is, and any drug is going to, manipulate neurotransmitters and chemistry. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what this is doing is it releases a flood of serotonin while reducing the amygdala, which is the fear center. And so imagine being able to look at your life with such compassion, even the parts that your brain, your subconscious has like covered up because they may have been too painful to look at. And so for me, it was like, with this rush of serotonin, so this flood of euphoria, I was able to see my entire life like on a spectrum and see the pattern of relationships that I had that led me to be so approval seeking and just desperate to find my self-worth in external validation, and to be able to find the exact root of where that came from, and then to realize that it was an illusion. So, and I'll get specific here. It's like, this was after my divorce and also after a very painful rejection from my first relationship after my divorce, before falling in love with you.
Yeah.
And it hit me so hard because I was spiraling in, I will never be loved again. I'm not worthy enough. There's nothing that I can do to make someone love me, because I was seeking external validation. There was nothing outside of me that could make me internally feel good. Even though logically I knew, I could not integrate it emotionally. So when I did this session, I was able to see my ex-husband, my ex-boyfriends, friendships, bosses, the mean girls in school, and all of them were a pattern. Obviously, the common denominator is me. And I don't think I ever, because I was doing therapy, you and I saw the same therapist.
Yeah.
3 times a week, crying over the same things. And I think we hear that a lot from other people that have done that. And it's so cool when you can talk to people that have done psychedelic therapy. I love that you say you like break the psychedelic fourth wall with them, because the conversations we can have are so deep. It's like, we've seen some shit together. Yeah. It's like that Alice in Wonderland meme. I've seen some shit. Anyway. But I was able to see that and realize where it came from in my parents. And I never would have thought, because I was like, my parents were great. My childhood was happy. It was perfect. Or at least I believe that. And I didn't understand the word trauma, and a lot of times you'll ask people, did you have trauma? And they think trauma means like big T trauma, car crash,
I got
abuse,
shot, something like that. Like,
trauma can be not feeling heard. Trauma can be, an abandonment wound when mom dropped you off at daycare and your child's psychology thought that you were being left, and can be exacerbated by, a future boyfriend that whatever, like doesn't agree with you or something. And
I do think that trauma though, like is thrown around a little bit too easily now also, where people are like, I was late to school and I experienced trauma. You know what I mean? Like it's like part of that is toughen up. It's like life, just toughen up. But there's a second part to legitimate actual trauma that actually creates a program in your head that runs subconsciously without you thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like that's also trauma. It's your brain installing these programs. And that's where I realized, oh my gosh, I am literally running my life out of pain, and I have no other reason that I show up to the plate except for when pain is going around. So if there isn't any pain going on, I'm going to create it. And I had because
that actually makes you feel safe.
That funny enough is why I'm safe.
Yeah.
I'm like, I at least know this. It's the devil I know. Right?
Yeah. What got you here won't get you there. So it's like a lot of people that are running into this wall of these patterns, and are they conscious enough to recognize that it's a pattern? I certainly did it. I was like, I'll just keep finding another emotionally unavailable person to attach myself to. And if I'm good enough to them, then I'll be validated. And then I'll go for an even harder person, an even more challenging person. Like the guy I was with before you was very emotionally unavailable. And me internally, unconsciously, was like, if I can make him love me, I am worthy.
Sure. Yeah. So then you run that program. Yeah.
And then if that didn't work, maybe the next person, or shows up in business, shows up in friendships. And this all came from, and it's a perception that maybe it might've been like a 2-second experience that happened somewhere in our life that our subconscious just held on to. That's like, hey, this keeps you safe.
Yeah.
And my situation was, my parents had me 25, but like kind of unexpected. And, they amazing parents, of course. And I think anyone would say that about, hopefully would say that about their parents. Like I had a great childhood. So I just want to kind of preface with this, that like, this is something I've worked on.
Just because you have a great childhood doesn't mean you don't have it. Like, that's because I had the same thing. And people are like, wait, but how come you have to go to therapy? Did you have a great childhood? I'm like, well, a lot of crap happened, but that's not because of my parents' fault. Some of it's just life, living.
My mom had me, again, a little bit unexpectedly, I was an oops.
It was a little unexpected.
Yeah, a little bit. It's funny. I'm like already trying to validate. Look at this coming up. I'm like, but I'm still loved, okay? Just so everyone knows. And my parents are together and happy. So like we've made the happily ever. That's my whole life is trying to make the happily ever after story. My mom was so focused on like being the best mom. I mean, she worked full time. She sewed all my Halloween costumes. She made every single meal. She cooked and cleaned everything herself. And my inner child just wanted her to play with me. And it's not that she didn't want to. It's that she had the pressure of...
She was a mom.
Of being a mom, and maybe her own wounds and expectations and beliefs and traumas that made her be like, I got to show up in this way to do everything and be everything for everyone. And then little Marley was like, I just want mom. So that emotional unavailable mom who's not trying to be emotionally unavailable, she's just focused, and also a young mom trying to provide. I interpreted that as I have to work really hard to get mom's approval. And that stayed with me my whole life until MDMA therapy showed this to me. I don't think I ever would have gotten that, because now I can look at that with compassion and be like, oh, I just interpreted it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, it changed how I perceived every relationship that followed, to be like, oh, that's why I was in that. I can forgive myself for that because now I understand where it came from. And I can also see the other person's perspective of how I attracted them and maybe what was in their life that made me show up and pull them into my life, because there was something to learn from it. And you will keep getting the lesson until you learn it. And so that's why I think this kind of therapy is so incredibly powerful, because you could learn it like that.
Yeah. There was I just heard this. It's so interesting. This guy, I heard the quote. I didn't realize who he was from. So Einstein had like a peer, I think it was like Dr. Gobert or something like that. And he was extremely brilliant, just as brilliant as Einstein. They would walk. There's pictures of them walking through the forest together, like they're friends, colleagues. And he had this interesting quote where he said, "You cannot." I'm going to botch the quote, but it's something to the effect of, "You cannot affect or change a system when you're still a member of it." When we use that in business, where it's like, that's why I fire everyone at the beginning of a consulting day. Like, because you can't be in it and let us work on it. We got to act like you're like not in it. Then you can rehire you back in, right? But I think that's actually one of the benefits to psychedelics, is that you can't fix your crap when you're still a member of it. You know what I mean? And psychedelics have a way of pulling you out, gaining that perspective and going, these are the programs running my life? I had no idea. I wouldn't choose that if I was conscious about it. And we had that gentleman who kept working with us for a couple of years also, who was saying, it's shown like 80% of your life is not you making decisions. It's actually autopilot. I mean, anyone watching or listening, you can think about your day. What did you do today? What did you actually like say, here are the options and here's the thing I'm going to do? Most of what we do in our life, the way we respond or react to things, is 100% programs that taught us to be safe while we were growing up. And it's not that we would continue to consciously choose them. We just didn't know there's another option. And while we're still a member of the system, our own noggin, we can't affect much change inside of there. And so it pulls you out for a moment, and helps you go, I'm running my life based on pain. And it's interesting because I don't think it's a magic pill either. Like, I remember the next 6 months after that.
Integration.
Yeah, integration, which is where the real work comes.
Yeah.
It took me 6 months to like get unaddicted to pain, and just to become conscious of it. I would, on autopilot after MDMA, all right, I got to go do this thing. And I like, whoa, wait a second. Now I have this other perspective. I'm about to go run this program that before I was subconscious. I was going to go create some kind of pain in my life to show up. It took 6 months at least for me to just stop and go, what am I doing? There's got to be another way to show up to solve this problem other than creating another problem so this one feels smaller. You know?
What's been my pattern so far, and how do I choose the opposite? Because I like how we saw this in some Netflix documentary, I think it was Heal Your Mind or something like that, and it talked about how with this kind of therapy, and it's also different kinds of psychedelic therapy, like psilocybin or LSD or Ayahuasca. There's so many other things that
DMT.
We've also tried. It's like, imagine that your mind is like these ski slopes, and the skiers are always taking the same path from the top of the hill to the bottom. But then when you have this therapy, it's like a fresh coat of snow that you can choose a different path. So there's this new wiring that's able to connect in your brain, these new synapses that can fire to create a new outcome. Yeah. So you can look at these patterns that you have, and now that you're conscious of it, if you're not conscious of it, how can you change it? Like you said, you can't change a system when you're in it.
Still in it.
And so if you're like, if all you've ever known your entire life is to create from pain, and without knowing it, that's the system that keeps you safe because it's all you know, why would you choose something different? Why would I choose a healthy relationship with you when all I ever knew was chaos and proving and manipulation and the chaos that comes from like fighting and then making up and fighting and then making up? That like high is what I was just used to. And so when you first started to pursue me, which I love our story, I was like, you're not my type, because my type was narcissist, manipulator, cheater, abuser, and you were not safe for me because I've never taken that path before. That path sounds boring. That won't be fulfilling to my life, because what was...
Sorry, not a narcissist.
Yeah, so sorry. What was the only devil I knew was chaos. And what I love so much about this as this therapy as a tool is that it just opens up. It's almost like you have those blinders on and then just opens up slightly to see other opportunities in front of you. Because I think like one of my core wounds was this mother seeking approval, and that I would find my worthiness in someone else. And then that also translated into what came up in my most recent therapy, which was like life-changing for me and also for our relationship, it also translated into a fear of conflict, which I didn't know that I had. It's like you can't read the label from the inside, but I was so afraid of bringing up something to you or to an employee or anyone in my life that felt hard for me, because I felt like if I say something that you don't agree with, you could leave me.
Right.
And it's so funny. I was even thinking the other day do you remember our neighbor next door? They had the light on in their closet and it was like shining through our window at night. And I was like, well, we have to move. Like I couldn't.
Instead of asking them to turn it off.
Instead of just, oh my gosh. Like everything you want in life is on the other side of your ability to ask for what you want, and also your ability to believe in what you say you want. So if I want a happy relationship with you, I also have to be willing to ask for what I need. And sometimes that might create conflict. But are we strong enough to get through it? Or are we also strong enough to say like, hey, if that for some reason doesn't work for us anymore, I still love myself enough that I can go find what I want in my life. Yeah. Without being attached to a person or an idea. Because it's funny, I was even talking to our daughters yesterday about like, I, in the past, was so afraid of being alone that I chose people that actually made me feel like I was alone. And that was not happiness. And that, I don't know if I ever would have gotten that without this therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. That ability to just pull back and pull out and be like, wait a second, I didn't know that's what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't know what you don't know. And that's the worst kind of ignorance, you know, because that's the kind of ignorance that can actually hurt you. If you're aware you don't know something, at least there's the awareness so you can kind of create a control, or at least, you know, not that you have to control it, but you know, like, I love the fresh coat of snow analogy, because I also found afterward, I had an easier time showing up to everyday tasks without as much emotional, like, gotta psych myself up. I mean, I had this crazy pre-stage routine that people know about. It kind of became sub-famous. I would do push-ups on my knuckles, listen to really friendly rap, and I was like,
the alter ego from Steven to Steve, right?
Yeah, I'd bring the demon out a little bit because that's how I knew how to do it. That was exactly what I was doing. I would scream on the internet. I mean, sorry for everyone who followed me like 10 years ago.
You get a lot of comments now of like, you're so
calm now. Why is that? And it's like, well, it didn't. So what became the next fear for me was like, oh my gosh, did I lose my edge? You know what I mean? That was the other reason. Once it was after that first MDMA session, I was like, if I go fix this, I actually don't know how I'm actually going to show up. That became the biggest next scary thing. Yeah. But what just back to the snow thing, I think one of the reasons I calmed down so much, and that documentary about this stuff was on Netflix. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think so, we watched it.
Michael Pollan, I think, if anyone wants to look it up.
So good. But it's a perfect, what they were teaching, I was like, that, because the whole snow analogy where they're saying, hey, to get from point A to point B, my brain learned at an early, or at least earlier point in my life, that you have to go all over here and then back around and take these turns and go around this tree and around this rock and then finally that's how we get to point B. Where a fresh coat of snow in the brain, which there's science behind this. This is not woo-woo. You're not believing it, therefore it's true. It literally breaks and rebuilds synapses in your head so that point A to point B is a straight line.
Yeah.
It actually, what I found, improved my speed of thought. I thought it was going to do the opposite. I thought that it was going to be what the 70s all thought psychedelics were, and you're getting dumb and just constantly high and can't have a conversation. To me, it's been the opposite, where it improves speed of thought because my brain doesn't go from point A to point B with 15 miles in between. It's like 5 inches.
I think,
you know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
I could feel my internal barometer drop because of that. You mean I got to come up with a new offer, or I need to come up with a new routine in my life, or I got to come up with, and the way that I just thought that it took to do that, the route was serious amount of energy expenditure rather than, it could actually just be simple. Right.
Yeah.
And that's like the other major benefit I found from doing it just once.
Yeah. The transition from creating from chaos to creating from peace.
Yeah.
But there is some anxiety of that. It's like, again, it's all I've ever known.
How do I show up?
Like when the water is still, when there hasn't, you drop a rock in the water, it creates these ripples. You then, if the water is still, you can actually see what's underneath, and that can create a new level of anxiety. But then the shift is accepting a new level of peace. You mentioned how the 70s were perceived as, these Woodstock, or people that were taking the drugs and stuff. And
that certainly happens.
From what I also saw in this documentary was, I think that the stigma or the perception or the propaganda was to try to turn people against this medicine because the government doesn't want people to be loving and peaceful and calm.
It's so funny. The longer I've been out of the military, the less in love with the government I've been. You know what you're doing, you pieces of crap. Keep that in there. I'm just saying what we're all thinking.
My fear of conflict is firing. No, but this
Not
is good.
mine. Yeah.
I have
stare
a
in the
hat.
whites of your eyes.
I have a hat that I love. It says make speech free again.
Yeah.
And
I'm gonna freely speak on this. You know exactly what you're doing, FDA. So,
yes.
It pisses me off.
And
what's that quote? All it takes for the devil to win is for good people to do nothing. This is me doing something. All right. I'm not gonna be silent. That's why we're doing this episode.
a whole other podcast episode that we will get so fired up on is talking about health and my cancer journey and all the things that we found that are infuriating about what is in our environment, in our water, in our food that is killing people. And here, I mean, we'll stick to this topic of this episode, but here's something that can heal people.
Hold me back.
That the FDA is holding back from people. And I mean, I can't imagine where I would be in my life if I didn't do that therapy, that first time that then led to more, led to us being together, led to me changing how I show up for my family, my business, my life, the continued education that I'm doing, how I'm able now to speak out and share with other people. Like when I got my cancer diagnosis and I was able to cope through that and then also share with it, I know that even if it's small, the ripple effect of that has helped people. And I'm like, that's my only intention on this earth, is like, I just want to be able to learn, teach my downloads, take care of my family, and give that to other people. And I don't think that I would have had the tools to do that if I was still constantly seeking external validation to try to understand that I'm worthy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting with this, I mean, we're only bringing up MDMA. There's a lot of tools in the psychedelic tool belt. Mm-hmm. Well, really, there's like a small handful, and people will often classify them as straight up narcotics. That's not what these are at all. You're doing MDMA. Oh my gosh, gateway drug. You're gonna go do heroin next or whatever, right? It's like that's not what this is.
It's also not something that we crave or are addicted to, because when we do these sessions, they're a lot of work. Like,
it's not actually comfortable.
Mentally, emotionally. It's not something that I'm just going to I'll just pop one in the morning before I get to work.
Looking forward to it.
It's exhausting, and it's...
You have to rest
there's a recovery.
For a few days. Yeah.
There's a recovery and there's an integration. Mm-hmm. There's no way that I would be doing these back to back, week by week. And we also do it with respect, in the right set and setting, with a facilitator.
The guide. Yeah.
I know that sometimes you'll talk to people and we'd ask like, hey, have you ever tried MDMA therapy? They're like, oh, when I was a kid at raves. Like, that's not
what this is.
No.
That's not what this is. No, yeah. No, there's a lot of tools in that tool belt though, and MDMA has just been studied significantly, but I found a lot of use also with others.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they all kind of do a similar outcome, but they do it differently. You know, and I don't know if we ever will do an episode on each type that we've tried, but there's been benefits of each, although they are different, you know?
A question that I've gotten was, well, now that you've done this once, twice, three, for us, multiple times, why do you keep doing it? Like,
Is it a prescription?
Yeah. Aren't you done? Like, haven't you gotten enough? Or, you know, I've recently been public about how I've found God, and like, well, now that you found God, do you need to keep doing this? And so that's been the question that I've gotten. How would you answer that?
Yeah, gosh, wow, great. Extremely religious childhood. Mm-hmm. Very grateful for it. I always was taught a perception of it that this type of therapy was you were replacing God, right? And I think that's what people get afraid of. They're like, well, it's this or that. It's this or that. And I've actually found the exact opposite. And this is my own opinion on this. But my feeling has been it's actually reopened the channels to talking with God when I'm not taking one of those medicines. You know what I mean? All it really is, I mean, you're taking something that you can already really access in your own head. That was one of the biggest lessons after probably like the third or fourth time I'd done it, where it's like, you don't have to take this crap to really get these outcomes. Mm-hmm. Like, in my mind, the psychedelic therapy world has been training wheels for the thing that already exists inside of me.
That's a great way to put it.
It helps me get, and that's why I've been meditating more. And that's why I've been receiving these downloads. And I'm not taking those things. And it's been really, it's been cool because it's helped clear up, oh, this is how I talk to God, you know? And it's almost like now, like daily prayer or things like that will be they're like the check-in but going and doing, and you know, some psychedelic therapy or whatever, I'm going to it with the intention to like really work on myself. And when I've made God a partner in that and included God in that, and not like, well, I'm going to go over here so I feel really good about myself because I'm about to get high for a second, but it's actually really, really hard. Actually, very painful things come out of that that are good. Get it out, you know, purge it. It's not a this or that. It's actually been totally the opposite. That was my biggest fear. That's why as soon as I took that first MDMA dose, I immediately started praying, and I was like, oh my gosh, did I mess up? I remember saying, are you mad at me? Don't cast me out. I hope it's okay. I remember I was praying very, very fervently, and I said, I hope you're not angry at me. I'm really just trying to work on myself. And I heard very clearly, great, let's teach you. And I found, this is before I was even like in it. You know what I mean? So I know I wasn't like chemically altered by that point. Like, oh, you're chemically altered. That's why you're feeling great. It was before, because it takes like 45 minutes for you to really feel anything. That's when I started, like, I was meditating and I started feeling it's time to recreate both your relationship with God and with yourself, because you're seeing it not in the right lens, you know? And back to that perspectives thing. So I love talk therapy. You and I both, I did talk therapy for a year.
Yeah.
I've actually done it many times. I've had a lot of therapists in my life.
Yeah.
And this just speeds all of it up. And is not taking a place of God. It's actually created more of a tenderness.
Yeah. And I think that it's part of my path that was slow but gradual into finding God. I did not grow up going to church, did not grow up religious. I didn't have any influence really until meeting you, and then meeting another mentor who opened me up to it, and then all these crazy coincidences that led me to an amazing church that I love on YouTube, that then led me to other people and communities, and then was amplified in the questions that I would ask while in this therapy, that I just felt like there was no other explanation than just like these divine downloads, and then to feel like I've been given the tools to then also teach these downloads and help other people with them. So
yeah, I actually want to hear your response to that as well as what do you say to people when they ask why do you keep doing it? You think you've been forwardly asked that more than I have?
Yeah. I had this conversation with my mom recently because I actually invited my mom to do it with me, which I think would be incredible. We've talked about doing therapy solo, but doing this kind of therapy with a partner, like we intend to do it together one day. We've heard from other people that it's an incredibly loving and bonding experience. And I'm excited to see what kind of conversations or topics come up when this comes up. And I asked my mom if she'd be open to doing it with me. And for a very long time, she was just like, hard no.
Yeah.
And more recently, she has been more open to it. Haven't gotten a full yes yet, but she's been asking all the right kind of closing questions. Yeah. And yeah, she was like, well, why do you keep doing it? And she was one that asked, like, well, now that you found God, like, do you feel like you need to keep doing this? And I asked her, like, why do you go on vacation?
That's a good response. You've been before. Yeah, why do you have to do it again?
Yeah. And like, you don't need it. You could just stay home.
You could just stop.
Yeah. And you don't need to get on a plane and go to the beach and spend money on this. You know, you don't have to do that. And she kind of joked like, I do need it. We all, sure you all need that kind of respite and break. But, I kind of just went off on this tangent. I wish I had it all written down, all the things that I said that I've learned through it. Like, I found why I was attached to emotionally unavailable people and where that came from in me. And then I learned that about how to find like real healthy love and how to continue to bring that out in myself. And again, my addiction to creating from chaos and then having to realize that actually creating from peace is safe. That my fear of conflict and I went on a huge ramble and I think I was talking for like 5 minutes straight without even a break of like, I learned this and this and this and this and this and this and this. And she just by the end was like, you got all of that from this? And I was like, yeah. And I don't think that I ever would have gotten that in talk therapy or in reading books or like maybe eventually when I'm 100. Yeah. But imagine getting all of that in just one day and also getting it in such an experiential way that it is rewiring my brain so that the next day I'm showing up differently. Yeah. The things that I didn't know because the blinders are on, and when you're, in just a normal, sober, day-to-day life state, I couldn't see through my own rose-colored glasses of like, this is the way that it is. And now having this perspective, it changes how I show up and people around me can see it. My relationship with my mom has changed in how I show up to her because of my own perspectives or beliefs or memories that I held on to that, you said something about, I can't remember how you worded it, but something came up for me when you were talking. I was like, the past doesn't haunt us. We haunt the past. Like we continue in our mind, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, revisiting the memories that we are holding on to that have programmed how we show up. And the only thing keeping that story alive is us. And so your present is what defines your past, not your past defining your present. And then with that lens, you can also have your future define your present instead of being like, well, I'm just the way I am because this is what happened to me. It's like, this is what I believe now. And that's actually how now I see that situation differently. Like I could have been resentful to my mom my whole life because she didn't come to my first grade Christmas concert and I was looking for her in the audience for her to be applauding at me.
And then it creates a storyline and a belief.
But I also didn't know, like that wasn't a top of mind memory that I was ruminating on every single day. It was something that was deep in my subconscious that was still showing up for me 33 years later. Yeah. And now I can see that differently to be like, my mom was just doing her best. She had me at a young age. Oops. Right. So grateful she gave me life. Right. So grateful that she and my dad are together and happy and a great relationship role models. And now having daughters, I can understand what she was doing a lot differently, but I just didn't have the perspective to see at that time. And I'm sure that I've given my mom trauma that wouldn't it be cool if we could do this together and have the tools to be able to communicate that and have such a deeper relationship. And I'm thinking of that quote from Rumi, like we're all just walking each other home. Yeah. If we have the power to be able to do this work on ourselves that changes how we show up to relationships, even if they're not doing that work or they're doing a different kind of work, the world will be a better place.
Yeah. Dr. Hardy was talking about that.
He's such a, we reference him all the time.
He's amazing. No, so each one of them has taught me a different thing, and back to because I think that's one of the biggest reasons people don't even entertain the thought of trying psychedelics, because they're like, man, you know what? Is it God versus this? Is it God versus psychedelics? And that's not true at all. I think it was also Socrates that said it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. Meaning, like, I just want people to even to consider it. Yeah. It's like most people just throw it out. It's like, no, I can't even consider that. It's like, okay, entertain it without accepting it. Because one of the things that I remember when the floor of my life kind of fell out for a while, not kind of, it really did. I mean, it was intense. It was so intense. And I was in like a really bad spot. And I threw out pretty much, not my relationship with God, but all religion. I threw out all relationships, really. Right? I mean, it's just, I pulled in, and I got super depressed with it. It was ayahuasca that taught me what spirituality is outside of the context of religion. Separating the two was very helpful, and it's allowed me to then reassess and realize why religion is there. You know what I mean? Because when I tried to go learn it from the other way, sometimes they're hard. It was just challenging for me. And not everyone's that way. I'm talking my own experience, right? But it helped me reestablish that relationship with God by first removing the context of religion and then teaching, here's what spirituality is. And it was with ayahuasca ceremonies. It was like, oh, gotcha. That's what it means to be living this in my everyday life when I'm outside of church. You know what I mean?
One of the things
that really helped me a lot.
I love that our shaman, one of the things he says is life is the ceremony. A lot of times people in the ceremony, you have this incredible, beautiful experience and the euphoria and the emotions, which is like such a dance, the whole experience. It's a beautiful experience in both the highs and the lows. And then the next morning integration going back to everyday life. And some people are like, oh, why can't I feel that way all the time in my life? You can. Life is the ceremony. The same things that you experienced in that one session are the highs and lows of life. Yeah. And you might just be in a different state of mind for you to more easily accept the suggestions or the prompts or imprints or whatever the impressions that you get in that experience. But that is the day-to-day, and that is what integration is to take what you've learned and continue to show up with it. And so I have like pages and pages and pages and huge notebooks, and in some of the therapies I do record myself and have everything transcribed. And when I look at my notes from everything that I've learned, and like on every topic, which I'm sure all those topics will be episodes here. Yeah. Like when I had an ayahuasca ceremony about sex being communication, sex being creation, I was like, I don't know if I ever would have learned that in my day-to-day life. Yeah. That'll be a topic I'm sure we'll talk about. But it's cool to revisit my notes from these ceremonies or these sessions and be like, look how far I've come, and look what now I'm so proud of the things that I've learned that now I'll be able to give to our family, give to the people that I touch, give to the people that I will never meet, but might be influenced by something that I said to someone that helps another one. And so it was devastating to me when the FDA rejected MDMA, but also at the same time, with how much we've learned about the unfortunate manipulation that happens in media and regulatory bodies, it's like, I'm not surprised. But I used to also believe that, who am I to make an impact? I'm only one person, and I'm also Canadian and don't have the ability to vote in America. But I also realized I do, in a way, with my voice, that I can share these stories. And I certainly will have people, and we already have had people that are like, how dare you talk about that? That's
take that down. Don't go that route.
Yeah, careful. Watch yourself.
Watch yourself. It's like, I'm going to say what I think.
We already have had people in our circle that we have been able to support through their healing journey, whether they did this kind of medicine or not. Yeah. And their lives have been changed. So like that one person, it's worth it. And I hope that this reaches people and even the people that were just like us, that we might have been on our last legs and dreading waking up every morning. And there were people that we found that influenced us in this right direction. And I'm so grateful for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say as a whole, the psychedelic experience has helped me not create numbing in my life anymore.
Yeah, your coping mechanisms that
you
switched for different, healthier coping mechanisms.
But then to just in everyday life, just show up for whatever it is instead of numb from it and turn into the storm. I always love that, they put like a little stuffed animal buffalo with you. Like, I love that the buffalo.
In one of our sessions, they have all these really cool things.
Without saying anything about them at all, but one of the sessions, they handed me a little stuffed animal buffalo. I was like, what is this? They go, the buffalo is the only mammal that when a storm comes, they turn directly into the storm, thus making their time in the storm very short. Whereas every other animal, birds and everything, they fly from it. And so they're literally in it longer because they're trying to fly from it 24/7. They're like, we're gonna invite you to turn into the storm, all that stuff. But it's been cool because outside of even doing it, I've just found in my everyday life, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to numb out anymore. Oh, I'm not going to go be doing all the crap that I was before because I'm like, oh man, I got to get back on stage, or, oh no, I got to go show up to my business or my life this way, or, oh no, it's very easy to create a two-faced scenario when you're that. I didn't know any of that until psychedelics. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And just being able to show up, own it, be in the present, and not be in a pain body while I do it or muster up any kind of mask. I mean, it changes your whole life. And so it is a personal decision for everyone to go do it. And we're encouraging everyone. It is absolute. We're not telling you to go do it. It's a very personal decision. But just having both done it, I mean, we're different people than when we even started trying it like 4 years ago. And it's not like we're doing it all the time. It's been just a handful of times.
Right before I did it for the first time, I think I was on the edge of developing a drinking habit. I was drinking a lot also. I lived with my best friend. So during the pandemic, we're at home, best friends living together. We were drinking a bottle of wine almost a night.
You were drinking a lot of wine and I was drinking a lot of beer and scotch.
And I was also crying over the rejection that happened in that relationship that I just internalized so deeply as a reflection of my self-worth. And that was my coping mechanism. And now I see it as like, that was to numb. And the really interesting thing about this therapy is you are feeling it deeper than ever.
It does not let you numb.
To the root, but in a way that is so beautiful.
It's loving, but doesn't, it's the kind of like, they call ayahuasca grandmother, right? And like, I always love that they say, grandmother might kick your butt on this one. It's not.
But it's lovingly. Think of a grandmother kicking your butt.
But like, it's kind of like, hey, we're going to sit down for a second here and I'm going to tell you you're messing up. It's not like I'm going to go take this thing so that I feel good so I don't feel in my feelings. It's quite the opposite. Where
you're going to go into your feelings.
Like I was having such hardcore panic attacks at that time. I would black out. And I remember I woke up on the foot of my truck once and while all that divorce, all that crap was going on in my life, and I remember I went to a specific ayahuasca ceremony with the intention of healing. You remember this? I was so scared because I was like, I just don't want to have a panic attack while I'm under ayahuasca. I just don't want to. And as soon as we take the first
to seek.
As soon as we took the first thing, someone turned to me and goes, do you know someone else? They were here and they had something like that, or there was an alcoholic. Remember, there was in the room with us. I remember, and people bringing really intense problems and being very real and vulnerable. But I remember she turned to me and she goes, yeah, and they had the most aggressive episode they've ever had, and now they don't anymore. And I was like, oh crap. And sure enough, I had the most hardcore panic attack I've had in my entire life, and never had them again though. Healed it.
Yeah.
Like I had little bouts, little tiny, little flutters, but nothing, never an actual panic attack since then. And I was having 2 to 3 a day for a long time.
The only way out is through.
Yeah. Buffalo. Right. And that's why when someone's like, oh, it doesn't work, I'm like, you don't know what it is then.
Well, and
because it's not a medicine where like you got to take this pill in order for you to feel better. That's an SSRI. Like we're going to alter your state so you can actually just show up and function, but masked. This pulls all the masks down and figures out the reason you need it in the first place and says, why don't we just put the mask down whenever you're ready, but I'm going to constantly invite you why you're needing that mask.
It's like the SSRI or the other medications, maybe I shouldn't just label these ones, but some of the other ones are the painkillers and these are the pain feelers.
Yeah.
But the only way out is through. And so maybe to wrap this up, what would you say to people? Because we've heard this too. I'm just scared to do it.
I would.
So were we at the beginning.
Yeah. And also just for full transparency, we are not at all suggesting this. Not people
Again,
that do not
we'll
benefit.
say that 100 times.
That do not benefit from SSRIs. You know, it's amazing. Get help. Mm-hmm. That's the number one square, you know. So absolutely just get help if you need it. And you'll know, and no one else does. Be honest about it. But if someone's afraid to do it, I'm scared to do it, you're going to find this really special community that is also scared but does it anyway. And you find just these, I'm sorry, but just these badass human beings that lean straight into their problems. But it's done in such a loving manner where it's like it's kind of like any time I've done any psychedelic, it's like we're gonna run with you to the speed that you're willing to run and no more. So if this is, because it's still a loving thing, it's not the kind of thing. There's only been like 2 times ever where I felt like that was too intense. I don't know if I would have swam that fast, but it kind of made me, you know. But for the most part, especially MDMA, because it just turns off your fear center. It's like almost chemically impossible to feel fear.
And this like truth serum comes out. The stuff that comes out of your mouth, I'm like, did I just say that? Whoa.
Yeah. They're not all the same, right? Like ayahuasca is a little bit more intense than MDMA. There's not.
It's so interesting that it's different. I had this thing come out while I was in MDMA where I was like, it's easier to be poor than to ask for help. And I was like just taken back. Did that just come out of my mouth? Yeah. I didn't know that I felt that way.
Yeah.
And gosh, I could keep going on from here, and I really should probably wrap this one up. But
I want to wrap this up. I do want to end with one thing though. So I was talking to our kids, you know, and I was trying to teach them that you get what you look for in life, not necessarily what's true. You see what you look for. You are not necessarily seeing truth. You're seeing what you look for. Our brains have 4 billion bits of information coming in every day. And so what our brain really is a deletion machine, right? And that's the whole point of the RAS receptors, right? We all have the reticular activation system, and what it's doing is it is choosing what to not delete so that you notice it. It's kind of like when you buy a car and suddenly you see that same car everywhere. They were always there. It's just now your brain is tuned to it. Well, what I think is beautiful about psychedelic therapy is it gives you a chance to go back and say, what is my brain tuned to that I didn't even know I was tuning to, therefore seeing, therefore believing to be true, when it may not actually be what's real. Mm-hmm. And you are living in an altered state of reality, believing it's truth. You're literally in the matrix, you know? And so that's what I would say also if someone's afraid of it. It's like, well, how in love with the matrix are you? You know, truth or tradition? Do you want to move forward or do you want to, so that's what I would say.
All right.